Welcome, everybody, to the MLS Soccer Studios in New York for Club and Country After the Whistle. This is the knockout edition, baby. We're still alive for at least one more show because the U.S. national team made it one more game. And this Club and Country show, this is your show. 401-206-0MLS. It's about you. Calls, texts. What are you doing? What is
just
happening?
This
is not
here.
CONCACAF.
This is just, I thought that's what you do that, right? If you're marking up with a guy, you just come in and go with the
CONCACAF. Check this guy because it has been a pure CONCACAF game, and what could be more CONCACAF than this? El Salvador defending a corner kick. Josie Altidore gets. What are we calling it?
He got a purple nurple.
Yeah,
that's
That's actually the Latin word for it. And he got a
big
twister.
Old bite. It's a certain kind of. That's
big old bite out of the
against
back.
the rules there.
That was some CONCACAF defense.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't know if we could claim it entirely for CONCACAF because I feel like Chile and Uruguay sort of pioneered this sort of thing. But this was one of the gamesmanshipier games.
Yeah,
and look, I'm getting texts about it right now. 401-206-0MLS. We've got one from Andy in Dallas. He wants to know, he says, hot take here, CONCACAF does absolutely nothing about that bite. Well, we actually talked to a spokesman with CONCACAF, and he says as long as it's in the referee's report, the disciplinary committee can go back and look at it. But because he didn't make a call, he's got to make a note in his match report. So we'll see what happens there. But
I think the note is a lot of saliva, maybe how rare and how well cooked the meat was.
I mean, look,
situations like that. Guys,
there's 3 camera angles here, so it's...
I mean, we've got 5 cameras, and you bit me, so I hope you get suspended too.
That's true.
Why? Because this is Andrew Wiebe of ExtraTime Radio. This is Bobby Warsaw, former MLS player, former Scandinavian superstar, current author, and this is Matt Doyle. I never know how to describe you because you're indescribable.
40-year-old shut-in.
You are the analyst of our hearts, and this is your show. 401-206-0MLS. We've got plenty of calls, plenty of texts, but we still need more. Get in your takes, get in your opinions, get in your questions. Let's go to Dustin right now.
Hey guys, Dustin Rogers here from Durham, North Carolina. The defense was ugly tonight. Multiple misplayed 50-50 balls, too much physical and mental hesitation, and no organization in the back line. El Salvador was able to easily run past the defense multiple times with some simple chip balls and long balls. Any other team with a tiny bit of class would have scored at least twice. What changes did Bruce make for the next game? Omar Amaro must do a place, in my opinion, but with who?
I mean,
thanks, guys.
Martinique scored twice.
Yeah,
he
could have had more. I mean,
we could have had more. Yeah, nobody covered themselves in glory on that back line. I have the same exact fear with this team now that I had 4 games ago. Without Jeff Cameron, the back line is a disorganized mess. Matt Hedges, who I love in MLS, looks like a deer in headlights out there.
It's inexplainable right now.
It's incredible.
What is going on with him?
Is it inexplainable, Bobby, or can you explain it? I'm just wondering.
I'm in the category that has no idea what's going on. I think if he was just playing badly, I would say, he's got a couple bad games. Maybe he's not good enough for this level. But it's under the threshold for just a bad game. It's under that point where it's like, what the heck is going on with this guy?
It looks like he's in his own head. And look, we've seen Matt Hedges play very well against teams that are much better than El Salvador.
MLS teams that are better than the opponent.
Pachuca, we saw him go down to Mexico and put in a great shift in the CCL. He should not be intimidated. He looks intimidated. That said, I don't think it's easy to play with Omar Gonzalez because Matt Hedges
Do not blame Omar.
Omar was not good today. Omar was not good.
He's a goal. That's what all defenders are supposed to
do. He's letting balls bounce in the 6-yard box. He's picking back passes when he could play up the field and actually split the defense a little bit. I do not want to see either of these guys next game. I would love to see Matt Miazga and Matt Beasler given a chance together in Central
Guys,
defense.
the Gold Cup's about finding new talent. Dustin, give us a call because that's great analysis. We could use another person on the couch.
Also, Ben from California says, how should the backline go against Costa Rica? Because that's what's next. This game is over, done, dusted. We know these performances were not good enough, but they have to be in that semifinal. Answer Ben from California. Where does Bruce go? Does he switch it up? Does he rotate the squad? Does Matt Hedges get another chance to prove himself?
I would guess that Miazga gets a chance, but my thing with Hedges, going back to it, is that if he had played a little bit better, I would say he probably deserves to go to the bench. The fact that he was so under par tells me he needs to get another shot. That it has to be something mental. It has to be something emotional.
Friendly.
It's weird to say.
It can't be against Costa Rica.
But doesn't it need to be? Doesn't it need to be against a good opponent?
You're saying that you think Matt Hedges is still a necessary part of this team, and Bruce needs to break him out.
Matt Hedges of
rather than
MLS
see
deserves to be on this national team, and we're not seeing that Hedges. And I'm just wondering how we get over that tipping point to finally give him a real shot.
But Bobby, he had that chance, and I love Matt Hedges in MLS just as much as you guys do. But this is like brass tacks time. What's the point if you're going to just kind of throw it to the wind and not go for the win? He brought in the big guns to get a victory. And if Matt Hedges hasn't done it so far in these conditions, why do you expect him to do it against Costa Rica? Now, I hope he does. I hope he can. I hope he can be that player. But right now, we're just not seeing it.
So let's go. Maybe we could find some positives. But general, this game, 2-0 win for the U.S. They needed to get it done. They did. Josie Altidore said we should roll over teams like this. It was definitely not a rollover.
They didn't roll over them, but, I mean, they had 3 goals in the first half. One was incorrectly flagged offside. They drew I think 2 different red cards. The one on Lehigh should have been. Like, this was a game that the U.S. should have played better, but the attack looked good enough. I thought there was enough stuff happening there through the midfield, especially with Michael Bradley dictating play. I wanted to see more from Darlington Nagbe. I guess I'm not being positive anymore. But I saw some intent from Justin Morrow pushing up. He was a big part of the first goal. And, of course, Eric Lehigh with a Pipo Inzaghi run to finish it off. So there was some stuff. I don't know. I guess just CONCACAF is hard. I don't know.
That, to me, this needs to be addressed, right? Is that at some point, we're always giving the U.S. national team a hard time for CONCACAF games.
Always.
But how many times can it happen in CONCACAF before it's not the national team?
Right.
And it's CONCACAF, right? Where we set up our expectations so high to beat these supposed minnows, whether it's first team or second team for the United States. But maybe it's not the U.S., and maybe it's CONCACAF. And maybe it's kind of our fault as fans and analysts to not look at it properly and say, maybe we need to readjust our evaluation of these CONCACAF games.
And look, we sat here, watched that Mexico game with El Salvador, and we're like, hey, this team's good. They create opportunities, and we didn't bash Mexico, although they haven't been good. I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe El Salvador is better than we gave them credit for, and maybe this team just doesn't have that chemistry that you're looking for. Remember, a lot of these guys on the field weren't a part of the camp.
Right.
They just got here. They just got into this group, and it is not a first-team mixture. You are missing some of those kind of crux guys like Jeff Cameron that organize, that talk, that get people together. It didn't look organized a lot of this game. It didn't look like the spacing was right a lot of this game, and they suffered for it.
My biggest note on that is there's been a lot said about the B team or roster changes or lineup changes. But I actually think it might be things that we're not even seeing, because it's very clear there's something with this national team that doesn't look right. They look hesitant. They look slow. They look reactive. And yeah, it's easy to say it's a B team or it's lesser players, but to me, it actually looks like it's something else. Like, these guys should be eager. And there's things we don't think about, right? At a tournament like this, it could be the way you're sitting at meals. Just how did the hotel set up your seating arrangements? Did it allow you to spend time with teammates? Who was your roommate? Right? It might not be that you don't like the guy, but is it awkward to say, hey, can we turn up the air conditioning? Can we turn down the TV?
Can you stop giving me purple nurples?
Exactly. Right?
Please don't bite me while I'm in line for bacon and eggs.
Yeah, it's little things like this that can impact the way we play in a field. So it's easy to say that it's just roster changes, but it could just be things we don't see.
General camp chemistry. I mean, and that's
not anybody's fault.
Bruce have handled that? Bruce should know how to do that. He should be into this camp. That should just be done and dusted.
What are you going to do? What is
I can't believe that would be the issue.
You give guys random roommates to try and get them to connect with new people, but if it just happens that all 5 of them don't connect, what do you do, right? Like, you can't tell the hotel, I guess you can, how to set up the seats at a meal.
Fight Club. That's what you do.
It's fair, right?
Well, we're getting texts right now about the breakfast buffet, but I'll skip those for now because Ken in Washington wants to know, hey, there's a lot of focus on that back line, the defensive line, but what about the midfield? It felt disconnected and caught out. He says he hasn't seen the team this disorganized since Klinsmann.
Yeah.
He's bringing in the K-word.
That was like 6 months ago.
Yeah. But this was something Bobby and I talked about on the pregame Facebook Live that we did. I thought this was going to be like a 4-1-3-2 like the U.S. played against Honduras and Trinidad and Tobago. It was a flat 4-4-2. Darlington Nagbe.
I wish one of us had said that.
Yeah, you did say that. Correct.
Did we get that on tape?
Point for Bobby there. But Michael Bradley and Darlington Nagbe basically playing on the same latitudinal axis and kind of sharing responsibilities. They were not able to do that. And Nagbe doesn't find space quick enough. I know you like him as a central midfielder. I think he makes sense in a 3-man central midfield. I think in a 2-man central midfield, there's too much responsibility on him to dictate the game, and he's not quick to find space. What he's great at is getting on the ball and just skinning guys and like making something happen. But he didn't do that tonight either.
And I don't want to give him a huge excuse. The field was wet and it held on them.
Yeah, that was. And
Nagbe seems like the type of player where when something small like that happens, it throws him off. And like he wasn't trying to take guys on like he normally does. And the ball, he likes to let that ball run from. He doesn't take too many touches sometimes. And maybe that little thing can be enough because Bruce said, I want you to be aggressive, get into this game, blah, blah, blah. Everyone has said that to him for 8 years and he still doesn't do it. So there's something going on with him where if something happens wrong, he just doesn't feel like
he's
he can
also
take
a Canadian bacon guy at breakfast, and I heard that the spread was mostly regular bacon.
Thanks, Dad.
My thing, I think you're right about Darlington needing to be with 3. And what makes me think that is if you watch him, there's a play in transition today when the U.S. was breaking out, and he could have played the ball over top to Lehigh advancing, but Darlington doesn't see the ball that way. He just doesn't like to have the ball leave the ground. He doesn't see the game in 50, 70-yard distances. He sees it in 10, 15-yard distances. So it's better for him to have 3 players around him where he can pick up his head, he can play the short passes. So I agree with you that he's better suited than 3, but I still like the idea of him and Michael with 2 and largely just leaving them alone.
Bobby, how was your day today?
You warm?
It was good.
You good?
Yeah, I feel great right now.
So does Bruce go to 3 in the next game then? Because, look, Nagbe's here for a reason. Bradley's here for a reason. They're here to play.
Miazga's here for a reason.
Correct.
Hedges is here.
Agree. But this experiment didn't go that way.
I would love to see Kellen in there with
As a number 10? I mean, that's the thing with this
Why do we need
roster.
let's just put 3 in. Why did the world of soccer lose the 4-3-3? Whatever happened with us having 3 rotating center midfielders?
I don't think anyone's lost it. I think it's pretty popular
I think it's
right
gone.
now.
That's because our immediate reaction is who's the 6, who's the 8? Why don't we just have 3 rotating center midfielders? When we were kids, it was like, hey, up and back. Like it was both ways.
I mean, we saw that with the 2 today, which is actually less complex, and we saw Nagbe and Bradley struggle with that. We saw McCarty and Acosta struggle with it.
They didn't struggle. They didn't excel.
I mean, they struggled to protect the back line,
and they struggled on the ball.
And they did struggle to use the ball to break them down. Yeah. Everything was shuttled immediately to the flanks. And I'm sorry, I like Justin Morrow. He's a good player. I wouldn't hate to see him on the national team next summer. But I don't, our strength is not watching Justin Morrow and Jossie Zardes try to combine together
for
our
90 minutes. Strength is Eric Lehigh playing center forward.
Just giving Lehigh the ball.
Forward. Eric
Lehigh beat Lehigh.
I think Eric Lehigh has done the most in this tournament to go from wherever he is
nice
to Russia.
For El Salvador right out of the gate.
What's more encouraging? The goal? Hold on. What's more encouraging? The goal that he gets forward on in CONCACAF? That's never going to happen in a top-tier international game. I'm sorry. Are you kidding me? It's never going to happen at the World Cup or the back pass that gives away the goal that maybe ends your tournament. I thought Eric Lehigh was fine.
We have to give him a little leniency on the back pass, right? So that field was poorly watered. What happens is a team warms up, you train, you do 100 passes in warm-up, it goes to possession, and then they re-water the field. So you've already done 30 minutes, you've already connected 100 passes, and now it's a totally different field, right? That was the first time he touched the ball on that field. Bobby, so I give him a pass on that.
Bobby, hang on 1 second. I hear we have a special guest calling in to the show. 401-2060-MLS. Hello, special guest.
Wow, we're really using the term special guest these days, aren't we?
Well, we got to be liberal with special guests, Rob. That's how we get you on.
One of the top goal scorers in Division I college history or something like that, right?
For sure.
Colgate Raiders?
Yeah, or a decent assist for a Patriot League guy. That's about it. I'm not a goal scorer. How we doing? I'm happy the U.S. is on, but that was a really frustrating watch on a lot of levels. And you guys were just talking about Lehigh. I mean, that kicked things off in the 3rd minute. I'm not blaming the field or anything. That's just a poor touch. Tim Howard bailed his ass out with an incredible save. I mean, really an underrated save, I feel. And then between the sloppy back play and the really cheap stuff from El Salvador, it was a frustrating watch. And Bruce Arena, I don't think he's going to be real pleased on that plane heading to Dallas. He was overheard yelling at his team, too many turnovers, and he's right. This isn't what you expect from a Bruce Arena team. You expect them to be clean in the back and work hard and make things difficult for the opposition. Instead, they've given their 4 opponents here at the Gold Cup far too many chances to score.
Rob, we've been sitting here talking about changes. What changes for the U.S.? What changes for Bruce Arena? If you were going to try to play the guessing game here against Costa Rica, what do you think Bruce does? What does he trot out there?
Yeah, well, I think you're going to see borderline wholesale changes on the back line. My feeling is you bring Howard in, you're gonna ride him for the majority, for all the games that you have left in this tournament. But remember, last time out, we had Howard for World Cup qualifiers. They played him versus Trinidad and Tobago, and then that short turnaround with Mexico, they opted to keep him on the bench because of that groin. They were a little worried about it. So it'll be interesting if they don't play Howard. I'd be surprised. But that back line, I don't know. I think I don't know. Is it Beasler? Is it Miazga? Is it Omar? I think two of those three get the start. I think Villafana comes back. I think Bruce is making some calls to Germany just to make sure some of these guys can't come back and join the roster. Midfield, I'm not overly stressed about. I get the feeling that this Giassi experiment is coming to an end, and maybe his place right now is better off the bench and bring that energy. And up top, I think you're going to give Jordan Morris a start, and you're going to give somebody some minutes off the bench, and maybe that's Dempsey.
Stoner, we were talking about this earlier. How much of this is the U.S. playing poorly, and how much of this is maybe us not giving CONCACAF enough credit for being better? Is CONCACAF? I mean, you've been watching it for 120 years, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, Bruce is trying to play that card, and he did it pregame, and I think there's certainly some validity to it, and I'm happy to see. But we're seeing pretty simple mistakes. We're seeing poor passes. We're seeing things that the U.S., I don't care what team it is, should be completing. So, I think in the end you should be frustrated if you're a U.S. team. But again, this is not your top team, and that you're acclimating 6 guys, really 5 of them starters on a short turnaround. But point where we just expect more from the U.S. And look, I know the Mexican fan base and the Mexican press expect more from El Tri, and that's why they're always on them. I think we give a little more of the benefit of the doubt to the situation, a little more realistic what we're seeing. But in the end, a 2-0 result versus El Salvador, I'm fine just looking at that score line. But the way they went about it, I don't think Bruce is going to be pleased, and I don't think most of the fan base and the media should be thrilled either.
And Rob, coming up, Costa Rica in the semifinals. They've been one of the strongest teams so far. What do you expect?
They had our number, right? I mean, they whitewashed us last time we saw them in World Cup qualifying, Jurgen's swan song. So here's 2 and 3.
I had forgotten about that.
In the Hex. Again, I think the U.S. is the favorite. I think the U.S. is the favorite to win this tournament, and they're doing it in ugly fashion. But look, nations win major tournaments in ugly fashion. Italy does it on a seemingly continual basis. So there is something to be said about getting that result, something to be said about Josie Altidore not just throwing a wicked haymaker after he's been bit or given a titty twister. There are benefits. There are things to be positive about. But in the end, I think we expect more as a nation, and I think you're going to get it. I think they realize, particularly when you got the veterans in the camp right now, that wasn't what they're capable of, that they are a better team than that, and they know that everything gets elevated Saturday night in Arlington with a Costa Rican team that, we forget just a few years ago, they were quarterfinalists at the World Cup. They're well on their way to another World Cup. This is a really good soccer nation out there.
Stoner, have you ever bitten someone while playing soccer, or more likely to happen during bowling?
No. Good one.
Bone.
No, you know what? I go nuts, and the guys know it. Like, I go nuts over the diving, the flopping, biting, spitting, pulling the jersey is the thing that drives me nuts for some reason. But my go-to kind of sleaze move was the old running behind the action in a full sprint and cutting behind the guy I was even with and accidentally clipping his heel and dropping him. So that was Stoner's go-to move. I loved it. So good at it. Never got whistled for it. And without fail, within 30 seconds, I'd get a retaliatory foul coming at me that would lead to a yellow card because I baited the guy into it. That's as cheap as Rob Stone gets, and it's very suburban, a very suburban white-collar move.
Well, Rob Stone, he's the best. That's what he does. He's also the best professional. That's why he already promoted the game that I'm going to promo. 10 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday night. on FS1. USA versus Costa Rica, Univision as well. And then we'll be back here for Club and Country after the whistle. It's the only place Rob Stone goes once he's finished working. Every day he just turns on, and sometimes he stares at a blank YouTube screen, and sometimes he watches us.
I hope Alexi's not in the car, Stone, because I feel like he'd be going for the nipples. I feel like he'd be going for the nipples, man.
I mean, I can't believe I said purple nurple on television. But I mean, how else do you describe that? It's amazing.
I can't believe it took you 20 years to say purple nurple on television. Actually, I was hoping you would have worked it in MLS at some point.
Well, Rob Stone, that's why we love you. You're a legend.
I love you more.
Drive safely,
guys. You're doing great work for Club and Country out there. We appreciate it.
We got that call from Rob. We also got some texts rolling through. So many texts. John from Maryland on the wingers. He says the wide midfielders haven't been that impressive.
Correct.
Who starts out there against Costa Rica? And that probably depends on formation, right? I mean, are they going to stick with that 4-4, go 4-2-3-1? What's going to happen? Who should play wide?
Who was that? Who gave us that?
John from Maryland.
John from Maryland just isn't watching the show enough because we've said this 3 straight weeks. It's the weakest part of the player pool right now. The wingers just aren't as good as the center backs and the center mids and the strikers.
I think I like Areola more than you guys do. I know he had some rough touches tonight, but I see a lot of good in his movement and his aggression. I thought he came out there and was one of the few guys who tried to set the tone.
You know what maybe screws Areola? You got to have two. It's 2 to tango. You can't play one winger and not
That's
another.
fine. I like Areola because he stays outside, because he plays like an actual winger.
But then doesn't the other one need to tuck?
Yes, which Zardes does not do. Zardes does not help at all.
He doesn't tuck in?
So I think
Yeah,
right. I think if you play Nagbe inverted on the left, he'll come inside, and that gives you.
A la who? Barca 2008 with Henry.
Sure.
That's really where we're going.
I was thinking.
How could that be where we're going? I was like,
Allah, the greatest team ever assembled.
It's just my favorite system ever.
Okay, fine.
It's mine as well. But I think actually in a 4-4-2, I think you stick with Josie and Deuce up top. You give him a couple more reps. You play Areola on the right. You play Nagbe on the left. You have Nagbe tuck, and you open up that left side.
Dax
so
or Kellen in center mid.
We've got Sam in DC saying he counted the passes between Dempsey and Josie in the first half,
0.
and there were not any. Yeah. It was a big goose egg.
I gotta disagree, man. I think we're setting up Dempsey for anything right now, guys. I think we're setting him up for the Super Sub role. Get him physically, emotionally. I heard a story once that Richard Jefferson used to literally just spend 20 minutes on the bench at Cavs practice. He would stand up and shoot a 3 because that's what he did in training. Right? Maybe we just need to start training Dempsey to do these things. Have him sit on the bench for 80 minutes and say, "Clint, go save us."
Hey, Clint, go warm up in 3 minutes and get out there.
I agree.
And bang
It sounds weird, but we've got to start training his muscle memory and his emotions to doing these things because that's going to be his role at the World Cup, is it not?
So Dempsey's a super sub. Winger's a short position. Let's have the Julian Green conversation because there's no one else in U.S. soccer
the what?
that I'd rather talk about. Yeah. So at what point does Julian Green take over this team? Just kidding. But Julian Green came out of nowhere for Jurgen Klinsmann and got put on that World Cup roster in 2014. Who out there can fill one of these holes or come out of nowhere in the next 12 or so months and get
Bruce
into
is
this
not
team?
a clown, so he's not going to promise some kid who's never played professional soccer a spot on the World Cup team if he chooses the USA. I mean that like especially at the expense of
we threw these
one
out
of the
there.
best players. But these are some of the good young players. I don't think any of them is going to.
Here's the point, right? If we can assume that there will be a person that makes this World Cup team that we cannot guess right now, just because that's what history tells us, that there's always somebody that steps up in a year, and a year is a long time.
Or that injuries force a coach's hand. I think in Bruce's case, it will certainly be injuries.
Legend
I'm
Nick
with
Murray
you.
there.
This is not a case where you start promising spots.
Right.
It's a matter of, oh crap, we need a guy.
The guys that I would look at then, besides the ones there, if Weston McKennie breaks through in the Bundesliga,
hard position to do
it's
it at, though.
Very
right
hard
in the middle
position.
Of the park.
Yeah, Haji Wright, same thing for him.
He didn't make our list, but I think he has a very legitimate shot. Because the wingers are the toughest part of the weakest part of the player pool, and it's easiest to step up as a winger.
But he's not a true winger.
It's the easiest position on the field.
He's a center forward / winger. That's not his natural.
He's more like Jordan Morris. But I think it's more likely to be one of the veterans who gets brought back in and ends up getting
like
a shot.
Brian Ching.
This is the Danny Williams
actually,
time, right? This is where if Dax or if Michael Bradley are hurt, you're looking at him saying,
Do you tell a guy that just started 25 Premier League games that he doesn't make the World Cup roster?
Why not? If he's not good enough, then yeah, he doesn't make the World Cup roster. But I would have liked to have seen Danny Williams this summer to see if he is good enough. I also think that I haven't sold all my Benny Feilhaber stock. I haven't sold all my Sasha Kljestan stock.
You don't have to sell it. No one's going to buy it.
We've got a text. We got a text from Sam in Chicago. He says Iko Para should have been on the squad. Now he had the injury.
It's
in
tough.
fantasy world, in fantasy land. Could Iko Para be a part of this team?
You can't take an injury.
No. Let's say like before the injury. Did he deserve a call?
You
maybe?
cannot take,
yes,
I
Freddie
don't
Adu
think-
should be part of this
I don't
team.
think
Okay,
you
Freddie
can
Adu. What?
We thought we were doing Fantasyland.
You can't take an injury-prone defender to a grind of a tournament. You just can't. And I love Iko Para. I think
Short
he's been
turnaround.
Yeah, he's been the best defender in MLS by a mile this year. But you can't have a guy with a history of like 6 different types of injuries to a grind.
It's a good point. This text line, by the way, all of you texting me, this is ridiculous.
giggling over it.
Everybody named Sam is
Wiebe
texting me
loves
right
this.
now. Sam in Dallas, by the way, Jesus Ferreira will be the dark horse World Cup pick.
Isn't he going to be like 18?
Sam in Chicago threw Matt
17.
Polster out there. I mean, it's getting a little bit.
Matt Polster's not a bad shot.
He's on your
actually.
list for right back.
Here's one to talk about on the attacking side. Jack from Nebraska, he says our total loss of attacking cohesion so far this tournament makes us realize how important and crucial Pulisic is to next summer's tournament.
I
already knew that.
I think total loss of attacking cohesion's overstated. I think if you look at compared to what we did in 2015.
How many teams in the world have legitimate attacking cohesion?
Right.
We can do it on one hand.
Yeah. So of course we would be better if Christian Pulisic was here banging
Don't
goals.
look at
and
me.
getting-
Address Jack in Nebraska.
Jack
I'm
in Nebraska.
Jack.
I suggest,
Jack,
buddy,
you're good.
focus.
You're good. No,
Yeah.
you're good. So listen to Doyle. Doyle's expert analysis is I'll trash that fan and then I'll go into it. Guys, we're here to talk U.S., but Costa Rica as well. This is a semifinal. I know maybe this isn't all about winning, but the U.S. national team's in a semifinal.
It is all about winning.
Okay, so it's all about winning.
Hold on.
What do you expect from Costa Rica?
Well, it'll be nice to see the U.S. play a team that doesn't go in for that dark art stuff that we saw from El Salvador. I couldn't get it out.
I was going to say, I was
couldn't get it out,
wait
yeah.
a minute. I'm
Joe
confused.
Campbell won't be here, so
Yeah.
there'll be less phantom tripping. But this is a Costa
Matt
Rica team
Beasler
that a
will.
lot
Wasn't
of
Joel Campbell about to be like a starter for Arsenal at one point?
He
What
is.
happened?
He is.
It's
doing
the
fine.
same
Don't
thing
worry
that
about
happened to
Joe
Getty
Campbell.
and
Don't worry about Joe
Don't worry
Campbell.
about Joe
Wasn't good
Campbell.
enough.
I just don't understand these things sometimes.
But Costa Rica, this is a team that a lot of people thought could have been the favorite, was the favorite at times to some people because no one else played well in the group stage. What do we expect to see? They won on an own goal.
Yeah, that's fine. On pedigree, I still think it's the U.S. and Mexico, but I think actually this team, although they haven't played at their best, has a real shot here. And they're probably sitting in their hotel rooms right now watching this performance saying, we can
They're
do
probably
this.
sitting
Let's
in the
attack the center of defense. Like the U.S., when you run at those center backs and you run into the channels.
Marco Ureña?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's going to do a lot of step-overs. He may not have the final product in MLS right now, but I think they've got a real chance to win this game, to shock CONCACAF, and go win the Gold Cup for the first time ever. I think this is a team that can do it, and they ought to feel confident right now.
No Johan Venegas, no Joel Campbell hurts them.
I'm going to say the thing we're not supposed to say.
Which is?
How does anyone evaluate this Costa Rica team? Guys, what are we supposed to say logical about this team? If they were to go out and lose 4-0 to the U.S., we wouldn't be surprised. If they were to go out and win 3 or 4-0 and make it to a World Cup quarterfinal, we wouldn't be surprised. I can't think of another.
About that.
I can't think of another team in the world that is as up and down as this Costa Rica team.
I think
I don't
other
know
than
they're that down.
I think you're overstating that because
the
of
U.S.
last
could
summer.
beat them 4-0, and we'd say job.
The coach last summer in that game chose not to play with defensive midfielders, which was insane. And
The
he's
US coach?
No.
Are we not allowed to say his name?
Yeah, the Costa
K-word,
Rican
bro.
coach, whose name is escaping me right now. That was an experimental lineup, and he got punished for it. If you look at how Costa Rica plays when they play their typical 5-4-1, and they have Yeltsin Tejada or David Guzman,
Both of them today.
they're tough to break down. I mean, that's how they made the quarterfinals, and that's exactly what they're going to do against the U.S. They're going to absorb, try to funnel stuff into the middle, hit on those quick turnovers, get the ball onto Brian Ruiz's foot, and then find that third man run.
Isn't there something kind of crappy about this? That 1996 U.S. Soccer helped form MLS to build up the U.S. men's national team, and here we are with Costa Rica and Panama.
I actually love that. I'm a huge fan
Does that
of
make you guys have? I'm torn. I'm not sure it makes
No, I
me
love it.
better or worse.
Because it builds up the region, which builds up the U.S. national team. Because we're
miss the
sitting
days
here.
of
But we're sitting here saying, oh, why can't the U.S. blow these teams out? Why are they not rolling over anyone? Because there's quality there. Joel Campbell is on the books at Arsenal. I know he might not be playing, but he plays for Olympiacos. He plays in Spain. He plays in Portugal.
Plus, saying somebody's on the books at whatever European club is not like prima facie evidence that the guy's any good.
But he scores goals in Champions League, and he scores goals in top European League.
He's a good player.
Ryan Ruiz is a good player.
I'm arguing with your rhetorical device. It's terrible, and you need to stop.
I'm going to take us back.
It's Europe. It's better.
I'm going to take us back to the U.S. in this matchup. We're talking about them clogging up the middle. Most of the U.S.'s creativity has not come anywhere near that part of the field. So they're going to go wide, but if you have numbers in the middle, who's going to be the difference maker? Dempsey didn't look like it in this game for most of the game.
Dempsey's not dropping off the front line until he tops land.
Why do we always have to
I'm
say
just saying, where's it come from? How do they create against that packed-in defense?
Why do we always have to say there has to be... This is a pet peeve of mine in American soccer. Why do we always have to say there has to be a difference maker?
I'm not saying there does. I'm saying somebody's going to have to score the goal. Where does it come from? How does the U.S. create that space when I don't think the crossing from out wide is going to beat 3 men in the middle for Costa Rica? And that's where most of the ball has been routed attacking-wise.
Well, it doesn't have to be... We can get the ball wide and pass it towards the middle. Right, like we get these ideas.
What's the general?
It doesn't have to be a cross where it's just whipped in. We can get the ball. No, and I'm not. You have the right idea. I just think we let American players off the hook too often. Like, guys, don't cross. Pick up your head and pass it. Right? Why is it a pass everywhere else on the field? So to answer your question, I don't think we need a difference maker. I don't think we need to overthink this. Play our game. If they give us the space wide, attack wide, play the game out wide, get into good spots, and execute. Right? Soccer is a very simple game. We don't need to overcomplicate it with trying to do these long, fancy plays. If they give you the space wide, exploit it, get into good spots, and do your thing.
And I think Paul Arriola is a player who you would like to see do that because he's comfortable in the dribble, because I think more often in this game he tried to cut it back to the top of the box rather than just that like hopeful cross. But that's where Bradley needs to be, right? Making that late run, which he scored like a million goals.
This is called his game plan.
10 to 12 years ago.
I don't want Bradley making that run. I want Bradley protecting the defense. Kellen Acosta, if Alejandro Bedoya was here, he would be there. Nagby should have been there, but I don't think he sees the game quick enough.
And he's a real goal scorer.
In a 4-4-2. I do want to see Acosta given that chance because he's scored a couple goals this year, and he's had more, I think, of an attacking mindset.
We'll see what happens here. We've got a lot of hot takes rolling in. Matt in Baltimore, he says, can we put to rest the fallacy that this is a deep player pool? That's kind of been the track for a while here. Is he just overreacting, Doyle? What's going on?
Yeah, the U.S. They've won 12 in a row, or they're unbeaten in 12
American
games.
soccer fans, man, ruthless.
I know.
Miserable.
Well, it's us too. We came in here and we're just after every win, we're bagging them.
They're in the semifinals.
No, this is still a pretty deep player pool. We have, I think, two guys who are pretty close to irreplaceable if we want to play our best, and that's Jeff Cameron, who.
I cannot wait to hear this.
In central defense, he raises our floor.
And
obviously Christian Pulisic, who raises our ceiling. Why are you acting like that's controversial?
I just thought it was. I mean, it's the first time in a decade Michael Bradley's name hasn't been on that list.
All right, I'm going to cut you guys off here. Joel in Rome, Georgia, he wants to know why Dom Dwyer went home after this game. Was there anyone in that group that got sent home that could be a difference maker in this one? Sorry, I used difference maker again, Bobby. I'm just going to, before you can come at me, I'm going to just cut you off right there. Who could make a difference in this game and going forward?
You
Kellen
can't just
Rose of
change
the world.
the words up and make it.
Sure, I know. Make a difference. It's different.
It's the same thing.
But Kellen Rowe could. You said inverted, right? Kellen Rowe could come off that left side. Paul Arriola stays
That made
wide.
no sense. Do we think that it's a death sentence for these guys to be sent home?
Kellen Rowe said to us on ExtraTime Radio, which me and Andrew sometimes are on, so you guys can listen to that and whatever, and he's going to
I thought I was just biting. I have to mark.
He said that Bruce Arena said rather than sit on the bench, you should get pro games at the MLS level. Why would he be sitting on the bench is my question. Like, why is that the comment? You're a dude who was the best attacking option going into this game.
This is the worst part about being a pro player. Whenever coaches bench you, they always come up with something else. You know, maybe just be like, yo, you're just not good enough. You know, it's just a hard part. I feel for Kellen, you know, getting the run around.
Yeah. Landon Donovan getting out on the tweets.
He is on the Twitter machine here. Daniel from Arkansas, don't you think starting Jordan Morris on the wing would be best for the U.S. to counter against that Costa Rica backline?
Costa Rica doesn't allow counters. That's their whole thing. They don't turn the ball over in those spots where you can get in behind them. So no. Plus, if you play Jordan Morris on the wing, you are not going to get any possession on that wing. He's a north-south player. He doesn't check into the midfield to provide an outlet. He can't hit the final pass. He can get down the line and cut inside and shoot on his right foot, or we saw him cross with his left foot a couple of times.
He did kick it with his left foot one time.
Yes. But if we're playing a 4-3-3, I would, be into it a little bit, but I don't think we're going to play a 4-3-3.
One thing Bruce is trying to figure out, and you can hear him, Fox showed it today, you can hear him yelling at the center mids, get on the ball, be brave. And it feels like Bruce is trying to create a team, the team we've been craving for so long, that dictates and controls games. Yep. And the question is, how does he find a full 11 that fits into that mold? Nagby, Acosta, Bradley are probably the 3 center midfielders, but then
I don't
can you
even want a full 11. I just want a complementary 11. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be
That's my
good.
point. So does Jordan fit into that mold is my question.
We are going to debate this for the next 2.5 hours because no one's going to sleep because we never sleep. And we're not going to sleep on Saturday as well. 10 p.m. Eastern Time, Fox Sports 1 and Univision. USA versus Costa Rica. It's the next World Cup qualifier. It was Jurgen Klinsmann's last game. It's always a big matchup. We want your hot takes. 401-206-0MLS. Text this guy right here. Call us. And we'll see you on Saturday because we live for one more game.